Tired of screwing up, tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.
Eminent Waste of Time, episode 28. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And we survived the ride.
Yes, we did. Thought I was going to freeze.
It was pretty bad.
Thoroughly thought I was... Maybe we should fill them in on what we're talking about. Because if you just found the show, you're like, man, these guys are just random. But...
That's not going to help them.
No, but let's fill them in so they're not lost from the get-go. They can get lost later.
Fine.
Okay.
So, last weekend, we went on a ride up in northern Michigan, Harrison, Michigan to be exact, which is, it's a good 2/3 of the way up.
Yep, it's up there ways.
And so while it was cold here, like in the 30s and sunny, it was in the teens and not so sunny. And they still had, I don't know, 3 to 6 inches of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
That had not vanished at any point.
Yep.
So those were the riding conditions. It was cold.
It was really cold. If you guys watch your video, we talk about how cold it was. We saw, when we were driving to Harrison Power Sports on that morning, we saw 10 degrees. And then I think it warmed, quote unquote, warmed to like 28 or something. It got to around there.
Yeah, but the sun wasn't out for the better part of the day. So
Yeah.
28 and sunny is not bad.
It's not great, but
It's not great,
bad.
but it's not bad. And of course, today it's 65 degrees and sunny and
Yeah.
beautiful out.
It's great out right now.
Yeah, Mother Nature hates us. Because it's supposed to be cruddy. This coming weekend, we have a race, and it's supposed to be terrible for the race weekend.
They're talking about storms and everything else, like torrential downpours.
So Mother Nature hates us.
Pretty much.
It is a sign that you are not supposed to have a UTV. You should take that thing back.
No. I will fight Mother Nature.
So how's your week been so far? We don't want to, we're known for our witty banter, right?
Yeah. It hasn't been bad.
I don't know about witty.
Banter anyway.
Banter.
Yeah. Hasn't been bad. It does not feel like a Wednesday because we'll fill you guys in. We went to actually record this last night on a Tuesday, which is a strange thing. But the race series owner asked us to come out and do some video and stuff like that for his series to get some more interest in it and all that. And he's, doing the right things to try and make his series grow.
Sure.
And
Except he's got us involved.
Yeah. And I'll put what I thought was going to be, we'll be out there for 30 minutes and then drive back home. Yeah, like 2.5 hours later. And I'll put it this way. He was like, because we were in the RZR and it can't get through some of the spots he was on his side or on his quad. So he's like, well, yeah, you go up here and you do this. And I know this property. I mean, we raced there last year. I ran track sweep on it. I knew right where I was. Whatever he was describing didn't exist. And then finally, I was just like, okay, I'm not going to hunt for him anymore. We made a couple laps up and down the field. I'm like, we're going home. That's that.
We did get some usable video, but it's amazing. Of all the cameras combined, we probably had 2 hours of video, maybe a little better.
Yeah.
I've got about a minute.
Of usable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. It's about a minute of kind of quick, the quick flashy action for people that don't have any kind of attention span whatsoever.
Yep. And we talked about this last night. It is a lot harder to get good usable video for something like that. Now, if you're just like strapping a GoPro to the front of your side-by-side and you're going to go, video your ride, that's fine. It'll work. But that is usually not entertaining footage at all.
No, and it always looks so slow. I mean, at
does.
one point, you were going 75 miles an hour through a cornfield.
Yep.
The GoPro footage, really super boring.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like you're going 20.
I touched 80. I know I touched 80.
Yeah, it looks like you're going 25 or 30. I mean, because I remember, oh yeah, this is going to be a great part. And it comes up and, I fast forward over because I know roughly where it's going to be. I didn't use any of that.
It always is like that, no matter what. I mean, you always feel like I don't know if you feel like you're going faster or the video makes it look slower.
Probably both. but you just don't have the perspective. Because on the GoPro, you basically are looking ahead. You don't have the perspective out the side of your eyes. You don't have the wind in your eyes. You don't have any of the other sensation of speed.
Yeah.
You just have some video going. So I've kind of decided that GoPro videos, now there are some really neat ones out there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of GoPro video is now the equivalent of the 1960s when your neighbors would have you over and they'd want to show you slides.
Yeah.
Like, here's slides of my vacation to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. I mean, most of it.
Everybody has it. I've found anymore that even well done GoPro footage of people's ride videos, I used to watch that. I just don't anymore. Because I find myself, okay, fast forward, yep, looks the same. Fast forward, yep, looks the same. Fast forward, yep, looks the same. And we're at the end of a 2-hour video that all looked the same.
Yep.
Did I miss like a 5-second thing that could have been neat? Yeah, but...
If you really like UTVs, you won't like that kind of video because it's about the experience of being out there and doing it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't come close.
No, it doesn't.
So we shot some video last night. I've butchered, I was going to say cut together, but butchered is really...
Better term?
Yeah.
More fitting.
Like you can cut with an axe, but it's not what you want to do surgery with.
You cut with a baseball bat.
I did.
I bludgeoned it to death.
I bludgeoned it into a 1-minute video. And I might put some fancy effects on it just to try and hide my really gross inadequacies of video editing.
Explosion. Nothing was even there to explode. Explosion.
Exactly. I'm just going to go Michael Bay. So we got that done last night, got back here, and it was touching 9 o'clock by the time we got indoors. Had offloaded the RZR and that kind of stuff, and thought, there's no way. By the time we sit down, it's going to be touching 9:30, try and do an hour podcast, hope nothing goes wrong, that we have to start over, that sort of thing. So we're back on Wednesday.
Yeah, is what it is. We thought we were going to get a free night to get other stuff done.
That was the hope. But our dedication to you, our loyal listeners, knows no bounds.
Or we haven't found those bounds. It knows bounds, I'm sure.
Well, we're growing again, so I'm all excited.
Okay, yeah, we've talked about that the other day.
Well, I was listening to episode 27 on the way here just to mental notes about what we talked about, and also to remind myself to slow down when I talk, because I get excited and I talk fast, and I realize words don't come out that are actual words.
Yeah.
Or clearly, yes.
Yeah.
So that is my fault, and I need to slow down. It's kind of a reminder of that, but... I gave an update of what the March numbers looked like versus February, and there was about a 20% growth.
Yeah.
Well, looking at April, we have one podcast out. Well, I guess we have two now as of the recording of this. But when we only had one out, we were 8 days into the month. We almost had matched our February numbers in their entirety.
Yeah, it's growing. And
so thank you. I mean, the whole purpose of that is just to say thank you.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with...
It's not us. I'm not doing any better at this, I don't think.
No, I know I'm not. I just struggled to get the word thank you out.
Yeah, it's hard.
No, we do appreciate that you guys are spreading the word. That's the takeaway from it. You know, we asked you to, and you're making good on that promise. So
please keep doing so.
Or stop listening, and then we can just stop doing this. If it goes to 0, we're done.
That's what you say. I'm going to keep going.
Well, you can sit here and talk to yourself.
I do at work. People leave you alone then.
I was going to ask what's wrong with you, but we don't have enough time for that. We really genuinely don't.
A lot would be my first answer.
So back to the Harrison ride.
There we go.
That was an 8-minute detour to nowhere.
Yeah.
So we covered the fact that it was cold. The trails up there are amazing, and we are going back.
Oh, yeah. I will be going back.
We rode 150 miles round trip. So obviously, we kind of took the same trail up and back. We didn't even put a dent in what there is up there to ride. Not even close.
No. It's impressive. They're plenty wide to ride. There's pretty much the whole way you can meet another UTV on the trail, and you want to slow down when you two pass each other going opposite directions, but plenty wide to take the trail at speed and not really worry about it. They're not perfectly groomed, but they're well maintained and well kept. It's not brushy coming in over the edges of it or anything.
And even the areas where it's kind of washboarded out a little bit are very infrequent. Over the 75-mile one-way, there's only a couple miles of trail total that really you felt like, okay, I need to slow down and,
or speed up and just hit it fast.
Yeah, one of the two. I mean, a lot of it, man, you could really just open it up if you weren't in a group ride.
Yeah. Now, there was a couple spots where Doug and I were like, wow, the scenery is just amazing. And there's not a leaf on a tree up there.
No, yeah.
And, you imagine it in the summer or the fall or something like that. So I'm going to say that's one of the places that I really want to get to again. I really want to get up there and ride. So it was neat trails, the gas stations and everything. The state of Michigan is very UTV friendly.
Oh, definitely.
I'm a proponent of wearing a helmet. I'm not saying I'm not, but their laws are if you have a roll cage, you don't have to wear a helmet. So,
and if you have a windshield, you don't even have to wear eye protection.
Yeah. So I would suggest wearing helmets and eye protection and stuff, but if you're just running down to the gas station from like a campsite or something like that, you don't have to fully gear up, and the cops aren't going to give you grief or anything like that. They just say stay to the side of the road if you're on public roads. It's really, really about as UTV friendly as you can get.
Absolutely. In fact, the trails were so nice. I made comments to Chad about, imagine if they closed this down, because they're two-way trails. You're going to have traffic coming the other way.
Yeah.
But imagine if they had closed it down to one-way traffic and ran a race out there.
Oh, yeah. It would be
no laps, just like a point-to-point rally-style race.
Yeah, a hare scramble style.
Oh, man.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be a ton of fun, because the trails are set up for it. And you'll be in thick wooded areas, and then all of a sudden you come through and there's an area that's been logged or something, and it's open, or, it's a nice sandy area that you can just go play in. If you guys, I don't think we had any video of the sandy area, though, because the camera thing.
So we may have inadvertently deprived you of our GoPro footage.
But we just talked about it. GoPros are bad.
So we actually did you a favor. It's not that we forgot the SD cards in the truck or anything.
No, that completely didn't happen.
We really just saved everybody from a bunch of boring footage.
Well, and that was my thought, though. I left the GoPro, the SD cards in my truck. They were sitting there. We just didn't get them, and it was too late and whatever. But my thought was the GoPro footage, we're going to record what we can, and then we'll just, if there's anything interesting, grab it from the GoPro and chuck it in the video. It was probably going to be a couple seconds of video, and that was it, like 30 seconds.
Or you do the time-lapse thing where you travel, 5 miles in 10 seconds or something, something interesting like that. But
right. Yeah, it wasn't going to be the main point of it. So we just lost some filler materials, all it was.
Much like our podcast.
Yes. We are 1 hour of filler material. We are here
with a bit of music at the beginning and the end.
Yeah. Enjoy the music. Filler's in there too.
But no, it really overall was a great time, and we were geared up enough. I mean, we had coveralls on, lined bibs. We had Carhartt style jackets on. I had another sweatshirt on underneath mine. And the face sock made a big difference.
Yeah.
Keeping the wind off your neck and stuff underneath the helmet. And since all we really had was a half windshield, we both were wearing helmets and goggles. And honestly, when you're covered up and out of the wind, even as cold as it was, I was basically comfortable the whole time. I mean, you were aware it was cold. It wasn't like just sitting in your house, but it wasn't frozen or anything.
No, it really wasn't bad. The main thing is just like Doug was saying, blocking the wind. If you can block that wind, you can survive about anything.
But there's a whole manner of, different UTVs there, and some people were just completely open with no windshields, didn't even have the lower half doors or anything.
Yeah.
You got other people that had full cabs on them. And
these are people from Michigan, though.
Yeah.
They're used to this. We're Southern folk to them.
Northern Michigan.
Yeah.
Where the winters are long, the men are men, and the women are men.
Yeah. That was going to be my next thing. So, yes. No, but it was a good ride. We got to actually go up there and we got to see Emerson. He's one of the owners. of
Harrison Power Sports
there. They had a lot of boats in there. They were just they had just done, I guess, a switch over from sleds and all that, and they're gearing up for summer because, Michigan is like all lakes somehow.
Yeah, well, it's surrounded by several of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, even internal, you can't go. I think there's a statistic. I don't know the truth of it, but it seems about right. You can't go farther than a mile in any direction in Michigan and not come to some sort of water, whether it's a creek, a pond, a lake, or
swamp,
something. Yeah.
But no, there's a lot of lakes. So they had their pontoon boats out, and we got to see the Havoc X, the Textron Havoc X. That was a neat looking little machine. They had a couple of those on the ride. They had the Stampede there in the showroom.
They did the big 4-door one.
Yep. And it was a high lifter. They had a high lifter lift put on it, and it had bigger tires and all that.
I really liked that thing. I won't lie. In fact, one thing I really liked was behind the rear seat, but still inside the roll cage, there was storage.
Yeah.
So if you had a full cab on it, you had the bed behind it, but you also had some dry, in theory, even maybe heated storage right behind the seats.
Yep.
And the rear seat legroom was phenomenal.
It was. It was better than the RZRs, better than like the 4-seat Rangers. Stuff like that. It was great legroom in that one. And then, because I was saving it for last, they had the XX. They had 2 of them there, actually. So
one of them was sitting in the showroom floor. We didn't, that's the beauty one. But Emerson had one out that he actually led the ride on. So it didn't make the road trip. We'll get to that, though.
Yeah. So let's talk about initial impressions, because we both sat in the XX in the showroom. So what was your initial impressions?
I hated the seat. I mean, out and out hated the seat. But the interesting part was, fast forwarding for just a second here, I actually got to drive the XX that Emerson was in, and that seat was fine. So I don't know if it was just some sort of, you need to sit in them for 20 minutes to get the seat out of factory bumpy mode or something, but it had a big bulge that hit me right, mid-thigh, and there was another big bulge in the back, and I immediately thought, there's no way I could sit in this thing for any length of time.
I thought the exact same thing when I sat down in it. That seat, I was just like, oh, no way. I mean,
yeah.
My first thought was, okay, you got to add the price of new, like PRPs or some sort of new seat to the price, because there's no way anybody could sit in those. But I was the exact same way. When I drove the one that was out on the ride, I completely did not even notice the seats. They felt perfectly fine.
No, so maybe, I don't know, maybe they just need a little break-in time and then they're fine. Maybe that's just how they're built.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an oddity, but...
the other impression I had, I don't want to make it sound all negative, but this one had a roof on it. Now, the one Emerson was riding did not have a roof on it.
Right.
It was just open cage. The roof on this comes down over the top and into the windshield quite a bit, and it gave it a very cave-like feel. Now, we were indoors.
Yeah.
So that gives you some of that effect as well. But your RZR also has a roof on it, and I felt like the just overall visibility out of the RZR was better than the XX.
I'll agree.
It was a little more like an X3. If you have an X3 with a roof on it, it's a more kind of closed-in feel. Is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, somebody was asking me on the posts that I put out today, which will have been last week for you guys listening, but they said, "Well, how does it compare?" And they're asking me several questions. The best way I can describe, we'll say, the seating position between that and a RZR, because everyone mostly has sat in a RZR at least, or an X3, it's a mix, or it's a cross between sitting in a RZR XP and sitting in an X3. I would say it leans much more towards the X3 kind of seating position.
It does. It feels more like you're in a car.
Yeah.
Where the RZR, you're in a UTV. It just feels like it.
But in the XX, you aren't quite as, I guess the best way I can describe it is enveloped by the sides and everything. You have a little more side-to-side space. Not like you're rattling around in there. Just the X3, you really sit back in the seats, and the sides of it come up and around you.
Well, and the dash panel in the X3 is kind of cockpit curved around you.
Right.
And that's not the case in the XX. It's just a flat slab like most UTVs.
Yeah. So my initial impression from just sitting in the showroom, I mean, I looked at the suspension, and that was nothing new or amazing to me, but I looked at all of that, and I was like, the suspension's great. It looks nice. My initial impression was I don't like it near as much as I had hoped I would. Now, don't take that as my final opinion on it yet.
No,
we'll get to that.
We're just talking initial.
Yes.
The other initial opinion I had was I liked the pictures better. I thought it was uglier in person.
I don't like the back end on it.
No, I don't either.
I see why they did the back end the way they did, because they made it big enough to hold a spare tire in it. But it looks like it just goes too far past the tires.
And for whatever reason, I just wasn't a fan. The front end looked better to me in pictures because it reminded me of there's a Seinfeld episode. Everything goes back to a TV show or a movie for me. But there's a Seinfeld episode where he's dating this girl that from certain angles she's fine, and from other angles she's like terrifyingly ugly. And so this wasn't terrifyingly ugly from any particular position, but there's a couple times I looked at it from certain angles and thought it's just not attractive.
See, I don't mind the front end. I like the side look quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't mind the front end at all. It's not my favorite. I don't dislike it either. The back end just kind of looks like it hangs out a little bit too far for me, but I completely understand why they did it.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
The best way I can describe the interior also on this is it was built by a racer, Robbie Gordon.
There's nothing there that doesn't need to be there.
Yes, it is. They didn't do a curvy dash with extra angles and everything like that.
Nope.
But they did things that make your life so much easier. It's got block off plates for switches already pressed and cut into the dash, and all you have to do is pop them out. They're all already pre-wired behind those pop-outs.
Yep.
All you have to do is pop them out and plug in a switch, and it's done. There's no wiring you have to run, and you have to chase the wires and everything else.
And there are power accesses that those switches control at various points already wired into the UTV.
Yeah.
So, for instance, Emerson, when he was leading, he had a
lighted whip.
Yeah, lighted whip that are becoming more and more popular, so people could tell where he was. There was already a power port there for it. He just wired it in and done.
Yeah, he just put a plug on the end of his whip and plugged it in. Also, the interior has a big flat section on the dash, which, if nothing's there, it looks very strange and odd. But what it's there for is if you put a radio, either car-to-car communication or intercom or a CD player type radio or something like that, it's built in, and there's power and all that already behind it. I mean, it's there for a reason, but it was not designed with the extra swoops and angles and everything else that a lot of the dashes on the UTVs had.
No. Now, lest we sound like we weren't impressed, some things I liked out of the gate, first impressions. I liked the fact that it was pre-wired for a lot of different things. We've touched on it before. It has a 60 amp actual honest-to-goodness alternator.
Yes.
And the glove, it sounds dumb, but the glove box is cavernous.
Oh, it's massive.
And that is a huge, huge plus. Because
Yeah.
you need and it's got, a weather seal around it. You need dry storage. You need a place to put things.
And it was very convenient for the passenger or the driver to be able to open the glove box and get to whatever they needed.
Yeah.
Where in stark contrast to that, like my RZR, the glove box is down underneath the dash some and is not easy to get to.
No, it's really not.
And, it's a glove box. It's not a deal breaker for me, but they thought out the glove box very well on the XX.
Some other things that weren't apparent from looking at it, but we were filled in on from Emerson, they've really built this thing to be very, very easy to service.
Yeah.
All the hubs on all four corners are the same.
They're exactly the same.
So you don't have to carry a set of hubs for the front and a set of hubs for the rear, or one of each. If you have one and you assume you're not going to blow up more than one, you're good for all four corners.
Yeah, you can take one hub and it'll put anywhere in the vehicle. And
some other things that are interchangeable, the rear swing arms are identical. They literally just flip it over and it fits the other side.
Yep, that amazing thought process on that. I don't know why more places are not doing that, something like that. But
the entire rear motor carriage, 6 bolts, the whole thing drops out.
yeah, you can have it out in 15 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And the front clip is the same way. If something is damaged, like say you hit a tree or something and it actually damages the front frame component up there, it unbolts the front end and you can bolt a new front frame section on and you're good to go. So
Yeah.
it makes the frame being basically 3 parts, not counting like the upper roll cage where it bolts together. But there's like a back, a middle, and a front sections, and you can replace them as needed.
And the other thing that's really nice is because that bed, well, whether you like the looks of it or not, will hold a full-size spare. It also, that's your engine cover. So when you take there's basically big, wing nuts for lack of a better term, you pull 4 of those off, that whole thing pops up. You have a ton of access to the top side of the motor.
Oh, yeah. You can get to everything you need to right there.
So they did a lot right. I mean, that just makes sense. And again, you wonder why other manufacturers aren't doing what they've already figured out.
Yep.
So there's a lot good about it too. We don't want to sound like we're just bashing it. There's just some things we noticed up front that we weren't really expecting, that we didn't know if we'd like or not till we saw it. And
yeah, there's no perfect machine out there.
No.
I have complaints about my RZR. There's complaints I had about the X3 when I sat in it.
Yeah.
And if I drove it, I'm sure I would have come up with some more. And I'm not saying any of them are bad. I'm just saying there's nothing that is absolutely perfect. So that was our initial impressions. So then we hopped in the UTVs. Everybody did. There was about 120 is roughly the count that they got.
we had them broken up into 2 groups, a fast group and a slow group. And as usual, there are some people that should have been in the slow group that ended up in the fast group. But we actually got to do some running during the...
Yeah.
And Emerson actually had the XX up to about 75 at one point on the trail. I mean, so it'll hustle through rough terrain.
Yeah. It'll move. So we rode, well, what was it? It was 75 miles to the spot where we were going to get lunch. And Harrison Power Sports graciously provided lunch for everybody. And, we all went and got fuel. I misstated or I misunderstood before, but there was fuel to be had at the stop, but there was no planned fuel stops prior to the
along
lunch
the
stop.
way, which did amaze me because we ended up giving one of our co-riders a 2-gallon fill-up off of Chad's really expensive Rotopack.
Yeah.
Because Emerson told us, no, there's fuel once we get to that point, and we knew we had more than enough to get 75 miles.
Yeah.
But we were, 30 miles in, and he's down to 1 bar on his fuel meter, and I'm thinking, it's a ride. Fill it before you leave.
Yeah. I don't know what he was thinking, but that doesn't really matter. It is what it is. So we gave
I'm
him
just
the
saying,
fuel.
I'm glad that we had the Rotopack, and as most things we tend to purchase, other people end up using them, which
Yeah.
is fine. It's good to help people out on the trails and stuff.
I fully agree. I would rather give it away to someone than have them sitting on the side of the trail. So, we made the trip, kind of hung out there. It was windy and cold also at the food stop.
Yeah, this wasn't indoors. It was outdoors at a park.
Yeah. Did the food thing, did the fuel thing.
And then we headed over to, there's a big sand pit, basically. It's kind of mini dunes and a bunch of sand, and there's a bowl you can kind of, run hard against. And that's really where we got our first hands-on with the XX. And Chad was so jealous of it that he deliberately broke it so I wouldn't get a chance.
I broke it. No, actually, so we did get word back from Emerson. I talked to him yesterday or the day before.
Now, I'm going to pause you right there. If you have not seen the video or any of the pictures we've posted, what happened was the driver's side rear axle came out of the carrier and was basically, the way the swing arm is designed, basically picture about a 5-inch diameter tube, and the CV joint sits inside that, and the CV joint is, say, 3.5 inches in diameter. The axle had wedged itself in between the outside of the CV joint and the inside of the swing arm tube, and was just rotating around the outside of the CV joint, just pinched in there.
Yeah. So we had talked to Emerson after the fact, after they got it torn apart, and they sent pictures off to Textron and all that. And Textron is very positive that it was the rear swing arm was not adjusted properly when it was at the factory being assembled, and when the suspension went to full droop, it basically forced the axle out of the CV cup there, and it just came out, and that was it. Now, in the process of it rolling around that swing arm, it ruined the axle and it ruined the swing arm, but No, it was nothing that we did or anything like that. So that being said,
Our legacy is alive.
yes.
We break everything we touch.
I only got about 2 minutes in it, and we don't really know if I broke it or if Emerson broke it, because he was giving it some grief going around the sand bowl there too, just before I got in it, and he came back and parked it, and he said, "Hop in it and take it for a spin."
When you rode it, did you notice basically every time you either applied power or turned, it was making a weird clanking noise from the rear?
Possibly. I wasn't paying attention to noises.
Oh, because that's the first thing I noticed was, wow, this thing sounds really weird. So I did get to drive it, but I basically, after about a lap and a half, realized something was tragically wrong and brought it back.
Yeah. So I still feel extraordinarily bad, whether it was me or not, that more people didn't get to ride in it.
Yeah, but that was the bummer.
Textron is taking care of it for him, so it's not a problem. Really, it's just a missed opportunity for other people to see it.
Yeah.
So let's go on to
Second impressions.
actually hands-on impressions.
Hands-on impressions. There we
Because
go.
the first impressions was sitting in the showroom. I mean, it's
Right.
not much of an impression other than there it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I will let you go first this time.
Okay. Really, the power for a non-turbo machine is there. It comes on totally different than it does in a RZR, even a non-turbo, because it's that Yamaha 3-cylinder. It wants to rev, so it comes on. The power delivery, I guess what I'm saying, is very, very smooth. It's not abrupt at all. Just
Right.
very, very smooth. But there's a lot to be had there. I just naturally feel like you have to flog it a little bit more than, something like a RZR. Just kind of you tap the gas and it wants to jump. This thing, you got to. My first impression was, and granted we were in sand, you push a little harder on the skinny pedal, but man, it will go when you do.
Yeah.
The suspension on the thing is amazing. I was not as crazy about the front suspension. You didn't have as much of a problem with it, but the rear suspension on that thing is a complete all-star. It is ridiculous. Now, the whole thing is sorted out very, very well. It was just, again, I was in it for a minute tops.
Yeah.
But the rear suspension impressed me more than the front did. But overall, that being said, man, for a factory machine, just like literally pulled the plastic wrap off, put some oil in it, and took it riding. Very, very impressed with the suspension. Driving position wise, the RZR, I noticed, I felt like I knew where the front wheels were. This, I didn't have as much of a feeling like I knew where the front wheels were. Just from sitting in the cockpit, I'd be a little more leery in tight spots with that machine.
Well, but that's because it's more X3 style seating where you're sitting back more and lower.
I'm not complaining.
No, I'm just saying.
You asked me for
I'm just
opinions.
explaining it for everyone else because, it's not because anything's bad. It's just because it's designed differently.
It is bad if you don't like that.
Well,
that's
true.
why I'm saying it. But really, overall impression was of a very well put together machine. I mean, we just said that we broke it after a few minutes. It was a simple misadjustment. Textron's going to fix it. But the machine itself is very confidence inspiring. It feels like it's well put together. It feels very solid. If you've had beef with Textrons or not Textrons, but Wildcats in the past have kind of had a reputation of being a little weak, basically.
Yeah.
This does not feel like that in any shape or form.
No.
So I like it. And I think once they release a turbo version, I personally would be fine with a non-turbo. Again, I don't have a ton of experience because when I took off, the axle was broken already. So that affects some of the dynamics of driving, obviously, when you're only on 3 wheels. I'd be fine with a non-turbo, I think. But when, because they are going to release a turbo version, they basically have to, that thing's going to be an absolute animal. And the thing is it's got the suspension to keep up with the motor.
Yeah. Okay. So my first impressions, I honestly couldn't tell you if the axle was broke when I started or not. I really have no idea.
I don't think it was. You would have noticed, trust me.
I think I would have, and I felt like about halfway through, because I did about another lap and a half with what I think was the broken axle, and it felt different.
Yeah.
It was just different feeling. But anyway, so first impressions, like Doug was saying, the suspension is absolutely amazing. Hands down the best suspension machine I'd ever been in so far. Now, I have not driven an X3, and maybe it's as good. And my XP Turbo is just the Walker Evans edition. It beats my XP Turbo in the suspension category, hands down. Not even a question. I have not been in the Dynamics one yet, in the XP, the RZR Dynamics. So I don't know how those compare. I'm sure I will because I'll get to ride with Steve here reasonably soon, Steve Mueller, and I'll be able to kind of gauge it better then. But man, the suspension and all the driveline, it feels like it's just built super solid.
Yeah,
and that's where the weight comes from. I get that. I like the handling as far as cornering better on the Double X also. Because it sits lower, it corners flatter.
Yeah,
it doesn't have the body roll. And I don't mind the body roll, but it's more confidence inspiring just climbing in that than like my RZR or a lot of other machines, because you don't really know when yours is going to tip. But that one I don't know how you would roll it. It doesn't feel like I could roll it unless I really tried to roll it over. The power is great for a non-turbo machine. I would say as good or better than a lot of the other machines that I've been in that are non-turbo, like the YXZs. It would run right with the YXZ, if not a little faster than, is what it felt like. Yes, it's heavier, but it's also got like 15 more horsepower than the YXZ does. So I feel like they're close.
We did get some questions about, did you notice the weight? And my answer is absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially because my very first experience driving it was in sand. So it's kind of a double whammy. The sand is eating your horsepower right out of the gate.
Yep.
And it's a heavier machine. And I only had 3 wheels.
Yeah.
So I really didn't get to get any kind of real bearing on the machine and what the performance like if you were just out there running. But even so, all that said, I still thought, man, the motor is more than adequate for this.
Oh, yeah. You do feel the weight of the machine.
You definitely do.
I don't feel like it was a bad thing, though. Like
no, it just felt substantial. It didn't feel like a big, heavy, rolly pig. It just felt substantial. Like, man, this thing's built.
Yeah. And because they have the machine sit so low, I think that the weight wasn't as big of a factor in how it handled.
Right.
Because normally if you have a heavy machine and the weight's up high, it wants to body roll more. This doesn't do that. So it didn't feel like it was affecting it like you might think it would. Let's see. Suspension. The interior, it's Spartan. I mean, it's like I said, what needs to be there is there, and then more in behind as far as the wiring and all that. We already hit on the fact that the seat in that one it wasn't a factor for me.
No.
It wasn't something that's like, oh, I'm going to have to change that right away. It's like, oh, I didn't even notice it. Got in it, strapped in, and went. So that was great. It looked bigger, like I thought it would feel bigger around me as a bigger machine. Once I got out there and in it and moving, didn't notice the size.
No.
It was fine. All in all, I'm going to say, I'm going to sum up mine, and then I'll let you sum up, and you'll probably have about the same one. My first impression from the dealership was I didn't really like it that much. I was like, oh, it's okay, but I don't think it's for me. Once I drove it, I really liked it. I cannot overstate how great that suspension is. The power is plenty there. When they put a turbo on it, that thing will be a contender at the top limits of everything else that's out on the market. And I think if they did a couple things to the interior to kind of, we'll say, jazz it up a little bit, or you could do it. I mean, put some lighted switches in it or something like that. Everybody does anyway. It is a top-level machine. The only thing that's lacking for me, because I just stepped out of my turbo into that, was it's not a turbo machine. But it's like 50 horse less. I mean, you're going to have that. So, all in all, my summary is, in the showroom, I didn't think I was going to like it that much, and then I actually drove it, and I really did love it. It was a great machine.
I went into it expecting to, at least from the showroom part of it, just first impressions, I was excited to see it. In the showroom, I liked it less than I thought I would. That was just my first impression was, okay, this isn't really, for whatever reason, I'd seen pictures of it. It really wasn't quite what I was hoping it would be. Sometimes things just look different in person. Same thing after driving it, even as hobbled as it was when I took it out for as short a time as I did, I really liked it. It made me want to drive it more. It made me want to get it, more experience with it. I really just think it's an incredibly well-built machine, and I don't think I would miss the horsepower. I mean, everybody likes more horsepower, don't get me wrong. And yeah, we had just come out of your RZR, so it's not only the 50 horse, it's the 400 pounds.
Yeah.
But it's just they've really hit a home run with a lot of things on there, and there's some small things they can tweak if they choose to, but I really, really do like the machine. That being said, I still think the price tag is a little hard to swallow, but you're getting a lot for it. It's just a personal preference type of thing. I mean, I know where the money is, and I'm not complaining. Again, don't take it that way. It's just, I just don't know if I would shell out that kind of money for that machine with the horsepower deficit, I guess.
I get what you're saying, but also it's like we're comparing it to a RZR that we just got cheaper than MSRP by a couple $1,000s. But when those were new, they weren't cheaper than MSRP. They were selling for MSRP.
Right.
So
that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
With what I could do today,
right, I get that.
I don't know if I would.
I get that.
But it really, I mean, if you're looking for something to build and you're going to keep around for a while, maybe you're going to throw a turbo on it because it's already available, and you want something that'll keep up with the abuse that you can dish out with a turbocharged motor, or even the 1,000 that's in it.
It's the machine for that.
Oh yeah, my overall gut feeling is if you are, I don't want to say an abusive driver is the wrong term, but if you push your machine hard, I think that this is going to hold up better.
I agree.
Than your RZR with its little
the factory
flexible
parts. Yes, it'll hold up better than other things out there. I
Yeah.
fully agree with that.
So there you go. We were honest, if nothing else.
We just spent a bunch of time doing that. So we'll run through, because it was the first real trip out and the real riding that we actually did with my XP Turbo, we kind of need to do initial ride impressions.
Yes, we do. So
I'll go first on this, and you wrap it up on that?
Sure, you only let me drive for 10 minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm a jerk. So it performed great. I had zero complaints. Nothing bad happened. Nothing, it did exactly what we thought.
Yeah.
It's going to take some getting used to on a couple things. I noticed that I did not have a rear view mirror, which I missed.
About 10 minutes in, we're like, man, that stinks.
Yeah. I did not have a rear view mirror, and I enjoyed having it previously. The four-wheel drive is much, much different than what I'm used to on previous machines. It's just going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, talk about that for just a second.
So the four-wheel drive on those, and I found out what it does. It doesn't, I forget the RPM, but it's based on your RPMs. I think it's 2,600 RPMs, or maybe it's 3,100. It's something like that. But it won't engage the four-wheel drive for the first time if you're over 2,600 or 3,100 RPMs. So it's very strange. You can't just you can see up ahead things are slippery and I want to click it in four-wheel drive. It doesn't just come in. You have to slow down. You have to, and I get why they've done that, but it's different. So, and then it only engages a four-wheel drive when it senses wheel slip. Now, it's a very minute wheel slip, but when we were coming to a stop or something, and this was on snow and ice, and, we're coming in from 40, 50 mile an hour and we're slowing down, the four-wheel drive basically disengages. So all of a sudden, the back end starts stepping out a little bit. And if you don't know that that's going to happen, that's when it's a problem.
It's a little disconcerting.
Yeah. I mean, I just counter-steered it and we were fine. It was never a problem. It's just different. It's something I have to get used to.
You're used to driving a machine that when you put it in four, it's locked.
Yeah. That it stays in four-wheel drive. This does not. So it's just different is the best way I can put it. The power is still amazing. It still makes me chuckle. I love it.
Yeah.
There is no real places that we could jump up there. There's places that we could have jumped, but because it was a ride and the amount of people, there was no room to do that. and I didn't know the jumps were coming up or the spots to jump were coming up, so I could give space and then do that. It just wasn't the right place to do it. So, didn't get to do any of that there, but man, the machine did great. I really have no problems with it. I have since, as you guys have probably seen the video, taken it out back to my pond where I have a jump built and jumped it, 20 times probably at this point. Quite a few. I've enjoyed that immensely. And that suspension just soaks it up. Like I'm imagining in my head, this is going to hurt when I land, and it just doesn't. So, initial impressions, I'm still thrilled with the machine. It's great. I don't think I made a wrong choice. So, your impressions?
I've driven it a little bit here and there on the property, and for about 10 or 15 minutes on the ride. I purposely was not bothering you about that because it was your baby, and I was just going to let you have it. I
hadn't driven it really.
It's what needed to happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll have opportunities in the future, but I've driven it enough to know that honestly, it's really confidence inspiring. The seating position, the position of, all the controls relative to the front wheels, you feel like you can get in and just drive it hard because you know where everything is.
Yep.
I really like that. Again, the power is it's just grin inducing when you mash the pedal, and you don't even have to mash it. You go down halfway. You look behind you and you're just chucking up snow and ice and dirt. And you're
rearranging Mother Nature.
That never gets old. That is a lot of fun. Really, my initial impression, I don't want to keep, comparing it to other machines, but I just like the way Polaris has made it where you have a ton of visibility. You have a ton of, just intuitive idea of where the wheels are. It's just, again, I'm going to use the term confidence inspiring. I like the fact that even though this was a ton more machine than I have ever driven before in terms of a UTV, I wasn't intimidated by it at all. It was just easy to have fun in it. And
it's easy to handle at moderate pace as well as, it can get away from you, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying it's not like, it's a turbo and it's just going to run away from you and everything else. No, you can drive it at reasonable speeds and it's perfectly at home. It doesn't feel unwieldy or like it's doing something it shouldn't.
But it wants to gallop.
It does.
It wants to run at 40 to 50. It wants to go that speed, and you can tell. You can go slower, and there's no issue with that. But you can tell it wants to run.
Yeah.
So, overall, much more limited experience than you. But I was amazed on a couple different spots too, where it was very kind of washboardy and rough. It just ate it up.
Yeah.
There's a couple, big, there was one point in the trail. It was probably like a foot drop.
Yeah.
And it just soaked it up. And I'm processing everything through, we're still in the CF Moto racing. Like I start tensing up and then you just plop down and it's perfectly fine.
Now, just prior to us sitting down to record this, I told Doug, said, hop in the RZR with me. We'll run over here and I want you to hit the jump with me. And just so you get a full idea, because we hadn't really exercised the suspension to full use at the times that he's been with me. So I said, I just want you to jump in it. Hit the jump with me, and I didn't really give you time to prepare or anything else. I just turned the corner. I didn't hammer it. I wasn't like soaring over the skies or anything. It was a spirited jump, and I was watching him instead of really looking where I was going. But I knew there's nothing there to land on. It's my property, and I see him tense up as soon as we get up in the air and start that descent from the skies. And he tensed, and then we landed, and
just all grins once we landed.
Yeah.
Again, I was like, "This is going to hurt so bad."
Yeah,
that's the thought process,
and it doesn't. It handles the jumps. Just
in fact,
fine.
he did it again the second time, and I was like, "All right, go."
Yeah. So that's initial impressions so far. Thumbs up.
Yeah, we did not break it, which, man,
that says something.
Congrats to you, Polaris. We break everything else we touch.
Pretty much.
All right, we better get to trivia.
Oh, yes. Wait. Before the trivia, we have names. We have people actually submit names.
But we need more. Okay, so real quick.
Let's run over the ones we have real quick.
You get the trivia out.
Got it.
So Steve Mueller suggested Boosted Billy Goat or the Acre Shaker.
I like both of those.
And Robert Higbee says, names, Wasted Time or Free Falling. These are easy ones because of your podcast.
If I name it Wasted Time, my wife is going to give me grief all the time about it.
I did like that one RZR we saw that had the full windshield and he had vinyl letters on it that just said, "What was I thinking?"
That was pretty good. So,
that was on the ride up there in Harrison.
Yeah.
So we've got 4 names. I kind of feel like we want to leave this open for a little while longer, give
I agree.
other people some input. Not that we hate any of the names that have been suggested, but we got to have more of a pool than that. So.
I agree. So we'll leave it open for a little while longer and in indeterminate amount of time, and we'll just, so submit your names via the YouTube video. You can put it in the comments or shoot us a message on Facebook or something like that.
Carrier pigeon or whatever.
Yeah, and we'll reply or give the thing a thumbs up when we know we've seen it and all that, and we'll just compile a list, and then we'll go from there and figure out how we're going to pick it. So
there you go.
All right, good enough. On to your trivia, Douglas. Are you ready?
Let's go with yes.
Okay. Question number 1. Who sang the theme song for the film The Breakfast Club?
You mean like the group?
Yes, the band.
Oh, okay. It's don't tell me I know this one actually.
Do you?
I do. Why am I blanking? I hate it when I do this. I have early onset Alzheimer's from your terrible driving.
I love it when you do this. It
Thank
gives
you.
me great joy.
So very much. Just tell me.
Simple Minds.
Dang it.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
I just couldn't. It was on the tip of my tongue. I just couldn't get it
I
out.
enjoy watching you squirm.
Thanks.
Yep.
I actually did know that one. It just brain dead.
No internet point for you.
That's fine.
Question number 2. Where are the pig's sweat glands?
I don't care. Next question.
Seriously? You're not even going to guess?
No. Why would I want to know where pig sweat glands are? Do they even have any? Is this a trick question?
What is your answer, sir?
They don't have any.
There you go. I gave that away to you.
What's wrong with you?
A lot. We've already gone over that. Okay, question number 3. What hit song plays on the radio alarm clock in the movie Groundhog Day?
I got you, babe.
Yep.
Sonny and Cher.
Yes, sir. Very good. Okay, question number 4. In the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, who is the Sausage King of Chicago?
Ooh.
They're in the restaurant. They're trying to sneak in under someone else's reservation.
It's been too long since I've seen it. I can't remember who it is.
No answer?
Nope.
Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Oh, man. I got to go watch it movie. It's a great movie. It's just been a decade.
Yeah. Oh,
Or better.
Okay. Question number 5. What percentage of air is composed of oxygen? So the air we're breathing right now, what percentage of it is oxygen?
I think it's 21%. Might be 24. Both numbers it's in that vicinity.
21%.
I was right.
You
Yes.
were right. That should almost be just half an internet point, though.
No, I was right. Shut up.
Question number 6. You'll know this one. What was Wayne Gretzky's jersey number during his professional hockey career?
I don't know.
You seriously don't know?
Is it legit?
You're a hockey guy, too.
I'm a Red Wings guy.
I know, but it's Wayne Gretzky.
Did he play for the Red Wings?
Shut up. It's Wayne Gretzky.
Off the top of my head, I do not know.
99.
I'm terrible at jersey numbers, though.
I am, too, but 99.
I mean, I think Barry Sanders is like the only one I know.
Michael Jordan.
Well, yeah, that's you can't get away from that one.
Okay. Yeah, I figured you knew that one. Okay.
I probably should. Now I will, but yeah.
Okay. Question number 7. What was the name of the dolphin that Ace Ventura was trying to find in the movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective?
Dolphin?
No, it had a name.
The dolphin?
No.
Okay, I don't know then.
You're not even guessing?
Dude, when did that movie come out?
I don't know, but it's awesome.
Mid-90s or something? I don't think I've seen it since the 90s.
That's a great movie.
His
butt talks in it.
It is not a great movie.
It's a great
It is a movie. I probably tried to block it out. I think I've only seen it once all the way through.
Oh,
So
I've seen it 50 times, I'm sure.
that explains so much.
His butt talks.
No, that doesn't make for a good movie.
That is
just
classic comedy.
I've never been a big Jim Carrey fan.
Okay, anyway. Dolphin's name. No guess?
Herbert.
Snowflake.
Snowflake. Okay.
Okay. Jeez.
Is it a millennial dolphin?
No. Doesn't complain. Which band's song was the 1 billionth iTunes download? So name the band whose song was downloaded as the 1 billionth download.
Journey.
Nope. Coldplay.
Yeah. It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
The reason I said Journey is because I don't know if this holds true today, but as of a couple years ago, Don't Stop Believing was the most downloaded song of all time on iTunes.
That does not surprise me.
So it was worth a guess.
Yep. Question number 9. What geographical partitions is the state of Louisiana divided into instead of counties? So instead of counties, Louisiana divides them into something else. What do they divide them into?
Municipalities?
No. Called parishes.
Boroughs. Parishes. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I have heard that before.
Yeah. Same thing as counties, I guess. I don't think there's any difference from what I've ever seen, but they call them parishes.
There you go.
Okay.
They do a lot of odd things down there, though. Like, in terms of local government, it really is its own state.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, fine with me. Question number 10. Who was the original choice to play the Terminator in the Terminator movie? The original one, the first one.
O.J. Simpson.
Yes, it was.
But they didn't cast him because he was such a nice guy. They couldn't picture him as a murderous killing machine. Can you imagine the Terminator as O.J. Simpson?
No, I cannot.
I'm trying to picture the whole franchise in my head.
No, it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't. So.
Yeah, it was a good call to not cast him.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. So.
Okay, because we just talked about this, and I think you can do it pretty quickly. Carlisle, the most important project note. Because I laughed so hard when you told me this. I want to hear it again.
Okay. So this is one of those things.
This is stupid stuff with Chad's workmates.
Yeah, I do stupid things at work too. It doesn't.
Or do you bring work down to your stupid level?
Maybe. Either way, stupid surrounds me at all points in my life. So
wait a minute.
You're here.
Yeah.
Welcome to it.
Go ahead.
So we had this, what I'm going to deem a big project. It's not big in comparison to what I'm dealing with now, but big project to the tune of about $300,000 or so. So reasonable amounts of money being spent. So we had consultants come in that were professionals in this arena and everything else. This is all IT, so I'm going to keep it very broad because most of you don't care about what it is. So we have these consultants, and we're having a meeting or two a week or something ridiculous to keep us on track and all this. So there's 3 of us sitting around a speakerphone in a conference room, and one of the guys who I work with, it's typical etiquette to keep the speakerphone on mute until you're talking, because otherwise it's horrible noise for everyone else on the call.
Yeah.
So he had something to say. He took the speakerphone off mute, asked his question or whatever he said, and went to go put it back on mute, and he has his finger right over the speaker button, which hangs up the phone on this particular one. And I go, no, not that one. Don't press that one. Press the mute button. And he still has his finger over it, and I go, no, don't press that one. Not that one. Press the mute button. And he moves his finger over the mute button, starts to go down, and then like a comedy movie, his finger just jumps back to the speaker button. He hangs up on these guys. And we all and my boss is in there and everybody, and we all just look at each other with this horrified look of, quick, dial back into the conference call. They don't.
Now you got to tell them what they said right before you hung up on them, though.
So they said, well, no, that was right when we come back.
No, they said something right before, and then when they came back.
They said, so we're going to go into this final part that you guys really need to know. And that was right when he hit the speaker button to hang up on them. So we're like, oh, crap. So we're pulling back up the call-in information and dialing in as quick as we possibly can. And as soon as we get back on, these guys never knew we were gone. They didn't hear the beep that we went away or anything, or the beep that we came back. literally, we got connected back, and the first words out of the guy's mouth, the consultant's mouth, was, "And that is the most important thing you'll need to know to be successful in this project." And he, like a 2-second pause, he goes, "Any questions?" My boss, me, and the guy who just hung up on everybody look at each other like with this wild-eyed look like, did we tell them we just missed the last 5 minutes of the most important thing? And my boss just goes, "Nope, we're good." And we're like, okay, we ended that. When we kind of figured, well, we can fake it through whatever the most important thing was. That project was a complete and total failure. It just bombed. The system never got off the ground. We spent $300,000 and never used it. And I am pretty sure it's all because we missed the most important thing that we were.
And to this day, you don't know what that thing is.
I don't know what that thing is. No one ever asked. And that was very stupid on all of our parts. But
you're usually really outspoken. You're not afraid to ask questions. So.
I was the new guy there at the time. And it was like, I was thinking, surely one of these other guys will say something. And, you know, hey, we dropped the call there, and we need you to repeat the most important thing we could ever possibly need to know about this project.
Because the way you told me the story was right before he hung up, they said, "Now you really need to pay attention to this next part because it's absolutely crucial to the project."
And then click, yes.
And then you come back in with, "And that's the most important thing
you'll need to know to make this project successful."
That's awesome.
And we never knew it. And we failed miserably on that one. So,
well, the most important thing you all need to know is you just wasted another hour of your life.
I'm sorry.
Hopefully you were doing something else productive, that this wasn't just a dead hour of listening to us.
Yeah, I hope. Or you at least chuckled a few times. And
you've been warned. And you did get an unvarnished review of the XX, and there's some decent stuff in there.
Yeah, we'll pretend like that wasn't bad.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. Anyways, huge thanks to our sponsors as always. Watch Communications is the reason you were listening to this, so I'm hoping that's a good thing, that you're not mad at them because they've brought you this podcast. But they are doing our web hosting for us. They are doing the podcast hosting, and they are also an internet provider primarily in Indiana and Ohio. So if you live in the area and are looking at different internet options, give them a call. If you live anywhere in the planet and need web hosting, they can hook you up with that as well.
I'm pretty sure most of our listeners are from this planet.
You don't know that.
I don't.
You're just making wild assumptions now.
I am.
All right. Also want to say a big shout out to TGM Off-Road, who's been helping us out a lot with distributing some of our early products. UTV Engineering, UTV-doors.com, and of course Harrison Power Sports up there in Harrison, Michigan. And before we get off of here, I just want to say another huge thank you for setting up that ride. You guys were outstanding hosts, and honestly, very well put together little dealership there. Very friendly, very approachable. You just get a sense when you're in there, they're going to support you and take care of you after the sale.
Yep.
And, you know, those are the kind of people that we want to give a shout out to, and the only kind of sponsors we'll accept. We're not going to take sponsorship from somebody who we wouldn't use ourselves. So big shout out to Harrison. Thank you so much for inviting us along on that ride. And I believe they do a fall one.
Yes, they do.
If we can swing it, we are going to be there.
Yep. We'll have to see when it falls on as far as the date, because that was not a joke. It just came out. So, because we have other rides planned for in the fall time that we'll just have to see.
Yep, absolutely. And as always, you can find us on the web at eminentperformance.com, our website. We are also on Instagram at Eminent Racing, Facebook /Eminent Racing, and you can find the podcast on YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. And no matter where you've been or what you've been doing while you've wasted this hour with us, thanks for riding along with us.
Thanks, guys.
Tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.
Deep